Louis Vuitton is the foremost luxury brand in the world today. With a valuation of over $30 billion, the company has grown from a company started by a homeless teenager with no money or food or dare to dream, and in so doing, created a billion-dollar empire. In 1821, France was still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars. A lot of farmers were on the verge of bankruptcy. It was in this situation that Louis Vuitton was born. He immediately got to work on the family farm and was tasked with the responsibility of raising the animals, stocking firewood, and planting and harvesting crops. At the age of 10, his mother, a hat maker, died, and not long after, his father remarried. It wasn't long after that Louis's father also passed away, leaving young Louis in the hands of his new wife. As it happens in fairy tales, Louis' stepmother was wicked, mean, and gave him a hard time, and in 1835, Louis was fed up. He quietly left his home in Ancay, Franche-Comté, and left for Paris. He was only 13. He arrived in Paris 2 years after leaving home and in the middle of the Industrial Revolution. In Paris, Louis became acquainted with craftsmen and artisans who taught him how to work with wood, metals, fabrics, and stones. However, he has no money or shelter. He slept in the woods and used a small cloak to keep himself warm. At the same time, the first railway to Paris was established, and the city became more accessible. Craftsmen saw an opportunity to make more money by making custom boxes for aristocrats who traveled with paintings, furniture, and instruments. They needed boxes that they could fix their instruments, paintings, and furniture in and also prevent them from breaking. Louis had already learned the job in Paris, so it was a no-brainer that he would get involved in the trade. After all, he needed money to survive and get a suitable place to live. Fortunately, a successful trunk maker and packer named Monsieur Machal offered Louis a spot to work in his shop as an apprentice. Louis took the offer with both hands and immediately got to work. While he didn't earn much money, his passion and desire to learn paid off for Louis. Within a few years, Louis gained a reputation among Paris' more fashionable class and as one of the city's premier practitioners of the craft. And then, after the re-establishment of the French Empire under Napoleon III, Vuitton was hired as a personal trunk maker and packer for the Empress of France. She charged him with packing the most beautiful clothes in an exquisite way. This provided Vuitton with a gateway to other elites and royal clients who provided him work for the rest of his career. 1 year after working for the Empress, Louis left Machal's shop and opened his own trunk making and packing workshop in Paris. Louis began to come up with ideas that would change the industry standards. He had his first taste of success when his own version of boxes at the time became the standard for boxes and the #1 product in the market. Louis had evolved the way traditional boxes were made by dumping leather, which was less durable and had low water resistance, for canvas, which was lighter, more durable, and more water resistant. The Louis version of boxes made it easier to load and stack, which was impossible with the previous versions that existed. The Louis version also looked cleaner, modern, and elegant. His new product, the slab trunk, marked the birth of modern luggage as we know it today. Even though it took a while to start selling due to the skepticism amongst people at that time, it became a must-have accessory. The demand for this new and game-changing accessory remained high, and that spurred Louis into expanding his business and moving into a much bigger workspace in Agnès-sur-Seine. Next, Louis decided to evolve handbags. At the time, handbags were detested by society because they were considered bulky and were capable of causing injuries to women. Louis saw the potential in handbags and began to make them with canvas. This product, however, wasted no time in becoming a fan favorite. Almost immediately, demands began to come in, with Louis being tasked with making them in different styles and colors so that they would look even more attractive with different outfits. Eventually, the demands became overwhelming and Louis needed help. He enlisted his son, Georges Ferrell Vuitton, who, like his father, came up with ideas that changed the industry standards. He designed the world's first pig-proof lock. All lock patterns were safely kept at Vuitton's workrooms and registered with the owner's name in case another key was needed. The family's product continued to be in vogue and was in high demand until 1871, when Louis and his family had to stop production. The Franco-Prussian War broke out, and demands immediately stopped coming in. Like that wasn't enough, Louis' workshop was destroyed and left in ruins. Many of his tools were stolen, and his staff was gone. Louis and his family had no choice but to move to the city, where they lived in a refugee camp along with thousands of people who were also affected by the war. The situation in the camp was so terrible that Louis and his family could have died of starvation. When the war was over, Louis returned to find what was left of his workshop and immediately got to work rebuilding his business in a new shop at 1 Rue Scribe, next to a prestigious jockey club in the heart of Paris. It didn't take long before business began to boom, and this time on a global scale, with orders coming in from all over the world. Louis also saw the need to evolve, just like he had done at the start, and began trying new ideas. He took advantage of new and advanced technology and began to print custom patterns on fabrics. In 1872, Vuitton introduced a new line featuring beige monogram designs with a red stripe that would remain a signature of his brand. The new line took off immediately and was in high demand, as people saw it as a way to look different and modern. The success of this new line was nothing like Louis had experienced before. He began to receive orders from all over the world, so much that he had to open a shop in London to cater to his new customer base, which included more royals. His business was reaching new heights and gradually becoming a globally known brand when tragedy struck. In 1892, due to a severe and aggressive cancer in his brain known as glioblastoma, Louis passed away at the age of 70. The booming business was left in the hands of his son, George, who wasted no time in carrying on the legacy of his father. It was in his desire to move the business to new heights that he traveled to the United States of America to attend the World Fair. He realized that due to the growth of the business, he was going to need an international sales network. Luckily, he met John Wanamaker, the man who invented price tags and pioneered the concept of department stores. After meeting George, he began to sell the LV brand in the New York store and was the first in America to do so. It was also at this point that George added the LV monogram as we know it today to all Louis Vuitton products in memory of his father. Customers were surprised at this development. They were used to customizing their names on the brands. However, it was heartily accepted and business continued to thrive. George and his son, Gaston, continued to come up with new ideas and products for the business. George took the business to new heights and established distribution stores all over the United States of America. Sadly, he passed away and left the business and his father's unfinished legacy in the hands of his son, Gaston. Unfortunately for Gaston, and just like his grandfather had experienced, the Second World War erupted and Gaston had to shut down production. When the war ended, Gaston tasked his 3 sons, Henry, Zach, and Claude, with rebuilding the company from the ground up. And just like the predecessors, the sons came up with new ideas to take the business to new heights and created new models for the brand each year. Unfortunately, the father, Gaston, passed away, and the business took a big hit. The business slowed down due to the fact that some of Louis Vuitton branded products became unpopular. The situation left an uncertainty amongst the trio. They didn't understand how to run the company or which direction it should head under their leadership. So they asked their sister's husband, Henry, to take over. Henry was a business-minded person and had already founded and sold a big steel company for massive profits. He brought his knowledge of the business into his new position at LV, pivoted the brand from wholesale to retail, and broke into the Asian market. Under his leadership, LV's sales went from 20 million to over 260 million. Under his leadership, the company went public and the company's stocks sold out. Henry continued to take the business to new levels, opening LV stores all around the world, and in a few years, LV recorded over $1 billion in sales. The company then merged with Moet Hennessy, a champagne producer, in an attempt to form a luxury goods empire. While LV was expanding its investments, Henry and the president of Moet Hennessy were embroiled in a management dispute. To regain control of the company, Henry enlisted property developer Bernard Arnault as an ally. Unfortunately, Henry found out that he had enlisted the wrong person because Bernard had other interests and ambitions of his own. He wanted to own the company and he had brought a controlling interest in it for himself. He also became endeared to the Moet and Hennessy families and won their support. The matter went to the courts, where Henry lost and was ordered to step down. After that, the business began to plummet as sales plummeted. To regain their popularity and return to the top of the food chain, LV took a cue from their founder and began to come up with new ideas. Designers like Vivienne Westwood and Isaac Mizrahi to create luxury handbags for its 100th anniversary. At the time, handbags were not in vogue, and these sorts of collaborations were unheard of. But the collaborations worked, and LV returned to the top of the charts. 1 year later, Marc Jacobs was appointed the creative director of LV. Under Marc's watch, the company expanded into watches, jewelry, and sunglasses and has continued making luxury bags. Today, LV is the #1 luxury brand in the world and is valued at $30 billion. This is the story of Louis Vuitton. It all started with one homeless teenager with no money, food, or shelter but a bag of dreams. Thanks for watching this video. We know you definitely enjoyed this one. Give this video a like and share it with your friends so they can learn. If you have been entertained by this video, then there's more where it came from. Subscribe to the channel to find other expository videos like this one, and you'll be amazed at the things you didn't know. See you on the next video. Cheers.